I'm back in the mountains today, climbing probably the most popular munro on the Isle of Skye. It's been a pretty unreliable period for mountain weather over the last while, but I managed to snatch a reasonable day for getting a good view between the clouds and the rain. And in fact, the clouds themselves were one of the most picturesque elements of this day out in the hills.
I'm Feargus, and this is the middle of nowhere. It's got quite cold again. It's a bit uncomfortable, although I slept surprisingly well. I don't normally sleep very well in my camper van. Anyhow, finally I am back doing a mountain video for the first time in a couple of months. I thought it was about time because so many people like to see the mountain videos. I have come for the first time in about 2 or 3 years to the Isle of Skye in order to climb probably the most popular mountain on the island, which is Bla Bheinn, which is a pretty impressive mountain looking up at it. I've never been up it, but I've heard a lot about it. And in fact, it was recently, by popular vote, decided that it is the nation's favorite mountain. So I think it's going to be pretty impressive. The clouds are coming and going today. So I think there will be, if it stays like this at least, there will be bursts of clarity. But most of the time it's going to be obscured on the actual summit. There's no guarantee, of course, that I will actually reach the summit today because it was snowing a bit yesterday, but there's not much up there and I haven't brought my crampons, and the last week has been warm enough that any snow that was there from the winter pretty much all thawed off, so the chances of any really hard ice are relatively slim, but we'll see how we go. Fingers crossed I'll get to the top. At least the days are long, so I don't have to rush up anymore, struggling through the snow and ice. It is a lovely morning though. Well, those are the alternative fairy pools. For anybody who knows about the famous fairy pools on Skye, where you pay rather a lot of money to park up and go and see them. And you can take a dip if you want, which I have done in the past. It's really quite expensive and absolutely heaving. The thing is, for whatever reason of the volcanic geology on Skye, the waters in the burns and the lochs and the lochans tend to be very, very clear, which is absolutely beautiful both to look at and to swim in. See, look at this. These rocks are quite different to most that you'll find in Scotland and the UK in general, because it's one of very few places where they are clearly from active near surface volcanic activity that happened about 60-70 million years ago or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, which is a big contrast to the places which I usually go up around the far northwest of Scotland, which are some of the oldest rocks in Britain whereas these are some of the youngest, something like 40, 50 times younger. But you can see all the little kind of bubbles and stuff, and the way that the rock falls apart. And then these ones here, which are full of little grains kind of stuck together, and that's what's here and makes up the whole mountain above me. Very impressive. Sun's coming intermittently, gives you a nice blast of heat when it does. And I got high enough now that I can see the Isles of Rum, Egg, and Muck. I like Muck. Never been there, just like the fact that it's called Muck. There's some serious cliffs. Whoa. That's impressive. A bit scary considering I know that there's a big overhang under my feet. I'm gonna back off a little bit. Wow. Impressive. I think this is it already. That seemed like a surprisingly straightforward and easy hike. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, I'm a bit blinded from the snow, but look at that. You got the Cuillin Ridge directly opposite, taking up a huge amount of the skyline. Well, most of it is in cloud at the moment. I'm sure it'll clear up at some point during the day. Amazing. And the beautiful lochs down there, and trail coming down from Glen Sliachan. Too easy. I'm not used to carrying small bags on actual trails, but here I am. Looks like I'm not going to have a view for very much longer though. Look at that. Awesome. Anyway, I'll wait around until the conditions improve afterwards for pictures. Gotta have some lunch anyway.
This is the waiting game. It's completely clagged in now. For a good while after I got up, probably about an hour, it was really quite clear. I mean, the clouds were rolling over, beautiful clouds. But for the last half hour or so, it's just completely come down again like it was this morning. And like I worried earlier on the way up that it was going to be like this all day. So just in case things clear up again, I am going to hang around for another while. It's only about 3, a little bit after 3. So I'll give it until 5 o'clock in case I get really lucky with the clouds and the light for some really good photography. And I'm now alone up here. Despite the cloud, I came to Skye because it was forecast to be clearer up here in the hills and sunnier than anywhere else up in the northwest for this weekend, and only today. Yesterday it was howling gales, so up here it would have been seriously dangerous conditions to come up. Tomorrow it's going to be windy again and more cloudy and more rainy, which leads me to an interesting observation, and I'd be interested to hear in the comments if other people have made this observation too. I lived in Scotland for a couple of years between 2008 and 2010, and back then, when watching the weather forecast and trying to decide where to go at the weekends, I was always kind of crossing my fingers and hoping to go to the western hills along the western highlands. But probably 4 times out of 5, the weather would roll in from the Atlantic, and then it would be nicer in the east of Scotland than it would be in the west. So I would end up going for the default option, which was to head to the Cairngorms. We lived in Glasgow at the time. But since moving back up here 2.5 years ago, the situation seems to be reversed. 4 times out of 5, it's nicer on the west coast. And when there's some serious, really, really nasty weather, which causes power cuts and trees to fall down and even fatalities in the winter, that seems to happen in the east, in places like Aberdeenshire, which end up getting absolutely hammered by the storms. So is that something that's happened in general across Scotland? Is it just a kind of localized thing up around the far northwest where I live? I don't know. I mean, I like it. The western highlands are more dramatic than the Cairngorms for the most part, so that's fine by me. It doesn't tend to get as cold, so you don't get as much serious snow winter conditions, and that's been consistent because the Atlantic has a moderating influence on the temperature. So still the best place to go for proper winter conditions is the Cairngorms. And there's hardly any snow up here. So are things going to clear up? Okay, so this is interesting. Just as I was packing up to leave, it cleared up, relatively. And there is some interesting light with these sunbeams coming down from Cuillin Ridge over there. So I'm just going to go down and see if I can get something to put in the foreground to make it look more engaging. What a lucky little break. Just at my departure time. I don't think it's going to get any better than that though. It seems to be clouding in.
yes, I am aware that my camper van is a tip. It's because I just left everything all over the place this morning, and I'm prioritizing eating some dinner, late dinner. Now with the days getting longer quite rapidly, on the way down I didn't realize that it was taking me longer than I anticipated, and it got relatively late. So it's no wonder that I'm quite hungry. But I didn't want to sign off the video up on the mountain because there's quite a good aurora forecast, so the northern lights for tonight. So I've driven around to the other side of Bla Bheinn, to Elgol, which is on the coast, because if I'm lucky I'll get a view of the lights over the main Cuillin ridge, which is directly opposite. According to the Aurora Watch app, it has been pretty active since I got here, but I haven't been able to see anything with the naked eye. That being said, there are some clouds in the sky, and they're forecast to get worse, so it might be clouded out anyway, but I figured it was worth a shot, and it's a pleasant place to stay because I can hear the water outside right behind my head. Well, now I've had my dinner, and looking outside it has completely clouded over. And anyway, the Aurora Watch app says that it's all moved off to the north now anyway, so I don't know how many times I have crossed my fingers and hoped for a display of the northern lights when I've been on my video making trips, but the next couple of years should still have quite a lot of solar activity, so there's still plenty of time to get that on camera, and hopefully from somewhere on a summit camp or something, somewhere with a really awesome view. So chances are I am just going to finish making my bed and chill out and have my evening. And I have brought myself a treat because it's not Easter yet for me. I know you guys have had Easter already, but these hollow eggs that you get in the shops here just are so full of nostalgia for me. And I'm not going to be able to get them for Easter itself next week because I'm going to be spending it in Germany with my in-laws, which will be lovely, but they have different kind of chocolate arrangements. So that's my treat for tonight. Anyhow, so that was a lovely day, and actually after I left the summit, the light did improve quite a lot, and I got some lovely pictures looking down to the north along the rest of the ridge of Bla Bheinn with some lovely evening light, and I think they probably are the best pictures that I got all day. I'm not sure if they would have been better if I'd stayed on the summit a bit longer, but they're good. I'm happy with that. So that's about it for this video. I hope you're all well. Please give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. Leave me any comments if you fancy, and I will see you all in the next video. Take it easy until then.